Hey man, let's have a real conversation. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just truth. If you're reading this, chances are you're staring at your phone, wondering if you should text her. Maybe it's been a few days. Maybe she left you on read. Maybe the conversation just went dry. And now, your mind is doing laps. Should I double text? Should I send a meme? Should I check in just to be polite? Brother, I'm gonna tell you something that might go against every emotional instinct you have in this moment. Never text her again. Trust me on this. It's not weakness. It's not giving up. It's the strongest move you can make. See, when a woman pulls away, gets distant, or goes silent, and you chase, you're handing her all your power. You're showing her that you're emotionally invested in something that no longer values you. You're telling her, without saying it directly, you can treat me however you want and I'll still be here. That's not strength, brother. That's desperation. And even if your intentions are pure, even if you just want to talk, she doesn't see that. She sees a man who doesn't respect himself enough to walk away. And once she sees that, she never looks at you the same again. You've got to understand how women operate. If she's interested, you'll know. She'll show it. Women don't hide their attraction when they truly feel it. They call, they text first, they ask questions, they show up. But when she stops responding, takes forever to reply, gives you dry one-word answers, that's not a mistake. That's not her being busy. That's her silently telling you, I've moved on. You're not a priority. And your move in that moment will define everything. Text her again, and you confirm her choice. Stay silent, and you remind her that you're the prize. Let's be real. Your ego wants closure. It wants answers. It wants her to say, I'm not interested anymore, just so you can move on. But brother, you don't need closure when you have clarity. And the silence she gave you, that was your clarity. You don't chase after explanations from people who didn't care enough to communicate. You don't plead for attention from someone who already made you an option. And you definitely don't chase a woman who's silently hoping you'll keep chasing, just so she can keep ignoring you. No, brother. You ghost the ghoster. Here's what happens when you don't text her again. You begin to shift the dynamic. You go from the man waiting for her attention to the man she starts wondering about. She notices the silence. She starts asking herself, did I lose him? And whether or not she texts you back isn't the point. The point is that you stopped giving her free emotional validation. You took your energy back. You made her feel your absence. And in doing that, you sent a message louder than any text. You don't get access to me just because you had it once. Every time you resist the urge to text her, you build your emotional strength. You reclaim your dignity. You remind yourself that your value doesn't decrease just because someone stopped appreciating it. You start focusing on you, your health, your mission, your goals, your peace. And you begin to realize something powerful. Your silence isn't a weakness. It's a weapon. It protects your peace. It restores your power. And it teaches the people around you that you're not available to those who aren't all in. Let me say this clearly. You lose nothing by not texting her again. You don't lose a relationship. It already ended when the effort stopped. You don't lose a friend. Real friends don't ghost each other. And you don't lose hope. You gain clarity. The illusion breaks. The fog lifts. And in that silence, you stop hoping for a return and start preparing for your rebirth. You stop checking your phone and start checking your life. Your focus shifts. And that shift, that's how the healing begins. Here's a brutal truth. The man who texts after being ignored is seen as weak. Maybe not in your mind, maybe not even in hers consciously, but subconsciously, she files you under I can get away with anything here. And once she puts you there, it's nearly impossible to climb out because she doesn't fear losing you. And when there's no fear of loss, there's no motivation to invest. Women only value what they feel they could lose. And by never texting again, you become a man who could walk away forever. And that is power. Think about it. If she wanted you, she'd make it known. She'd initiate, she'd reach out. But if she hasn't, then it's time to stop wondering and start walking. Not out of anger, not to play a game, but to protect your energy. Because every time you send that message, hoping she'll respond, you're not just texting her, you're negotiating your self-worth. And that's a negotiation you never win. You lose a piece of yourself every time you chase silence. So instead, chase growth, chase peace, chase your own damn purpose. You want real attraction, real power? Then let your absence do the talking. Let your silence speak volumes. Let her sit in that void and wonder, because in that wondering, she may realize what she lost, or maybe she won't. Either way, it's not your job to chase closure. Your job is to level up. And trust me, the moment she sees you thriving without her, when she scrolls through your feed and sees a man who's glowing in solitude, she'll remember and she'll regret. But by then, you'll have elevated to a level where her validation no longer matters. Here's a reality. Most men won't accept until it's too late. You cannot convince a woman to care. No text, no paragraph, no emotional confession is ever going to shift her feelings if she's already detached. Attraction isn't logical, it's emotional, it's instinctual, and it can't be revived by begging for attention. The more you try to explain yourself, to show her how much you care, the more invisible you become. Because in her eyes, you're not standing tall, you're reaching, and reaching, to a woman, screams scarcity. But the man who doesn't text, who walks away with dignity, she remembers him forever. Not because he tried, but because he stopped trying when it was no longer being reciprocated. Never texting her again is not about revenge. It's not about punishing her. It's about breaking the cycle of emotional dependency. Because the longer you keep the door open, even with the occasional hey or just checking in, the longer you delay your own healing. You give yourself false hope. You create emotional loops that keep your heart hostage. But when you shut that door, fully and finally, you start living again. And that's the hardest part. It feels empty at first, but that emptiness is sacred. It's the space where your self-respect returns. You'll be tempted, I promise you. There will be nights when loneliness whispers in your ear, when you scroll through your photos, when you remember the good times. And that's when the devil creeps in with the thought, just one message won't hurt, but it will. It'll reset the whole process. It'll put you back in the frame of the man who waits. And every time you reach out when you know you shouldn't, you lose a little more respect for yourself. And worse, you train her to lose respect for you too. Silence is painful, yes, but begging is humiliating. You need to understand the kind of man you're becoming when you refuse to text her again. You're becoming unshakable, the kind of man who knows that peace is more valuable than temporary validation. The kind of man who chooses dignity over attention. The kind of man who has mastered his own emotions enough to say, even if I miss her, I will not chase her. That energy is rare, it's magnetic, and it's the reason men like you end up with respect, not just from women, but from yourself. Because self-respect is the foundation of every great life. What you're doing when you stay silent is resetting your own standards. You're telling yourself, I will only give my energy to those who match it. You're telling yourself, I am not an option, I am a choice. And you're telling the world, I do not tolerate disrespect, ambiguity, or breadcrumbs. That standard will protect you from 90% of the pain that modern dating creates. You won't get played, strung along, or misled. Why? Because you only respond to energy that's all in. And that, brother, is how you rise. Let her wonder. Let her sit in silence. Let her friends ask why you disappeared. Let her scroll through your name in her contacts and feel that sting. That's not pettiness. That's gravity. That's the consequence of treating a man like he's disposable. And trust me, it hits differently when you don't announce your exit. No goodbye message, no dramatic closure, just gone. That kind of silence shakes her deeper than any angry message ever could, because she realizes you were serious about your worth. You want to know why this works? Because it flips the frame. When you text, she's in control. When you stop, you are. And that reversal of power is everything. You're no longer reacting to her vibe, you're creating yours. You're no longer seeking connection, you're commanding respect. And that subtle shift turns you from the guy she's unsure about to the one she starts missing, because in your absence, she remembers the value. But by then, you'll be too focused on your growth to care whether she remembers or not. And that's when you truly win. There's a version of you on the other side of this silence that is stronger, calmer, and more focused than you've ever been. A man who no longer questions his worth, who no longer waits for replies, who no longer hands out his heart to anyone with a pretty face. He's building, he's evolving, he's grounded. And the only way to become him is to stop texting her, to stop chasing the past, to stop hoping for the closure that's already within you. You don't need her to explain anything. Her silence explained everything. One day she might come back. Most of them do. She'll send a "Hey stranger" or "Just thinking of you." But by then, something in you will have changed. You'll look at that message and feel nothing. Not hate, not love, just clarity. Because you'll realize that the woman who couldn't value you when she had you no longer has the power to affect you. And you won't reply. Not out of bitterness, but out of evolution. Because you're not the same man anymore. You've become untouchable. So if you're staring at your screen right now, about to send that message, don't. Put the phone down. Walk away. Go lift. Go build. Go heal. Let her feel your absence. Let her wonder why you disappeared. Let her realize what she lost. But most importantly, let you become the man who never begs again. This isn't just about her. It's about your standard, your peace, your power. So never text her again. Trust me on this. Your future self will thank you.